Welcome to Triple T number 117, number 117. Whew, it's been a day, but we're here anyway. Sometimes you get to step up and do it because people are waiting for you. And I'm so glad you guys are waiting for me. We're also live on YouTube. Hi, Mom. And for those of you on YouTube, please do all the fun YouTube stuff. Hit the subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments and more comments, and then comment on your comments on other people's comments on your comments. Because I like the comments. They don't cost you anything, but I like them. What else? Maybe I should introduce myself. That would be fun. My name is TJ Zebel. I call myself a professional problem solver. Sometimes I got to even help myself with my problems. Which doesn't mean I know everything. I'm far from that, but I do have a unique way of asking questions and inviting in metaphor man and analogies and my squirrels. For those of you that don't know me, the ones that do know me will confirm that my squirrels have squirrels. So, also on top of my squirrels, I have a website, and I would love it if you guys would visit and give me some feedback. Yes, yeah, feedback. Tell you, my squirrels. Here we go again. My website. Maybe it'd help if you knew what it was. Yes, I'm not on my game tonight. We're going to do the best we can anyway. My website is thetswb.com. thetallskinny-white-boy.com. Yes, that's what it means, and I'm not talking about com. What else? Oh, got to introduce the tie. This year, my goal is to wear a different tie for each one of these meetings. Yes, I do own that many ties. So today, brought to you by Garfield. Eating and eating, still eating, and
I was wondering what it was. From back there, it looked like a dinosaur, and I thought Land Before Time. I was very curious. Thank you for putting my brain at ease.
still eating. That would be me. Those that know me well are like, "What you put? Oh, what? Oh, all you can eat buffets hate me." Proven. What else we got? For those of you that are new to Triple T, the way we run this is the first hour. I've got 3 topics that I try to get through. I emphasize try. And the second hour is open mic, open floor. You can bring up any topics or questions you want. And I let the people on the call answer first because I also like to learn. And if there's anything left over that I think I can add to it, then I will add my 2 cents at that point. And for those of you that are watching live on YouTube or watching the recording, just a little side note, you only get to see the people whose cameras are active. So when people shut their camera off and step off, there may be times where I'm the only person that you're seeing, and it looks like I'm talking to myself and answering myself in different voices. So, no, there are multiple people on the call. They just have their camera shut off, and you don't get to see what that looks like. But enough of that. For those of you that are on the call, I'd like to start off the hour with anybody got anything cool to share from the last 7 days since we saw each other last? Holly's got her hand up. Holly.
I got something. So I got the privilege of working with somebody last week, and it was just a hey, let's try working on something that I've tried to clear probably 100 times before. Um, and we actually cleared it. And the reason we were able to clear it is because I sometimes forget how important it is to be playful. It was the most playful, fun approach I've done in such a long time. Every time I've got into it, I've been trying to be too serious. So two things I've learned, of course. One is the importance of being playful. But the other thing is, too, just because you've tried it 100 times before and didn't get the result doesn't mean next time won't work, too. So keep trying. It will eventually happen.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. On many levels, yes. The lesson inside of that is monstrous, but also I'm so glad that you got in and got some stuff cleared up, because everybody, if you're human and you've been alive for more than, what would you guys say, about 30 seconds, you probably got something that you could clear up. Something that you could work on, something that you could improve on. So those of you that think you stumbled on this, somebody sent it to you and you're like, I'm good, I don't need, I'd like to meet you. Because even therapists need therapists. I know. Anybody else got anything from the last 7 days? Yes, Mark.
Last Saturday, I was working with a gentleman, and we were discussing triggers, negative triggers, positive triggers, and I was able to help him install a calm, relaxed trigger right up here. Put him, did a hypnosis session with him, and it seemed to, went really well. And hopefully, he followed my suggestions, because he had been rehearsing, sitting down in his office and just getting all stressed out and suffering from burnout. So hopefully he got rid of that chair, that negative anchor, and maybe rearranged his office. And but he promised to be practicing this during the week, so I'm looking forward to Saturday's session to see if he's been practicing. So
Good stuff.
yeah,
I love hearing those success stories. I actually got one myself. One of my clients that I've been working with for a while, one of their kids was in the hospital, pretty serious, like life or death type serious. And they took everything, the stuff they shared with me, everything that they learned from myself, from Joe Dispenza, from Dr. David, from everything, and they stayed in the room as much as they absolutely could with their child, and absolutely poured into them. And was also very adamant with all staff. Doctors, didn't matter. There will be no negative talk in this room. None. No if, no possible, no chancey, no nothing. And they called one of the doctors out big time and said, have you had any patient that has gone through this in worse condition and made it? And the doctor was like, well, yeah, fine. Then the precedence has been set. My child is going to be fine. I don't want to hear any negative talk. Everything is going to be positive from this point on. Because even though they're in an induced coma, they can hear you. The doc was like, whoa. And their kid is doing miraculously, or is it well, healing quicker than expected, to no surprise, and admitted they heard the parent and they remember all the stuff even though they were in a coma. And I was coaching my client on what to say and using color breathing and all the stuff and making sure that they told their child, these are the colors I use for healing. Use the color that you know is the best color for your healing. And their child remembered hearing that as well. So spread the word. Even if somebody is in there in a coma, they're listening. We got one more thing from this week, but it's not mine, so I'll wait till somebody comes back. But anything else, or should we jump into the topics?
I do have something. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mike.
Cool. All right. I'm driving. Sorry. But I have a correction from last week when we were talking about animals and Mark was sharing about his experience about having the wings grow in his back and coming that dragon part. That and I put in the chat that it was, that was an animal that I had never thought of. That's what it was. And when you asked whether or not it was the falcon or not, I did that social, well, okay, yeah, but that was incorrect. So with respect to Mark, that's what it was. And I just wanted to take a second to bring that up.
Right on. Appreciate you sharing that.
Well, thank you. I last time I was at Hypno Thoughts, I was hanging out with John Masters, and the wizard was looking at me. He goes, "You look like you leveled up." And I said, "I think I did." And he said, "Yeah, but you're a little unsteady right now. You went up a level, but you need to be grounded for a while." And so he grounded me. I couldn't take off. And for like 24 hours, I felt like I was being tethered to the ground. And he had done that to me because he knew that's what I needed, to be grounded for a while, because I had leveled up. And then after about 24 hours, it was like whatever was holding me down, just kind of like dissolved. And I was like, okay, I think I'm stable now at this new level. And when I did what he had done to ground me, just dissolved. So believe it or not, as you will. But yeah, that again, John was such a powerful influence and benefactor to me.
Well, and I was going to totally agree. Powerful, and the one thing that I totally respected about him, he could slap you humble in the kindest way.
Mm-hmm.
He did that to me a couple of times. You're like, oh, that kind of hurt, but you knew that he didn't do it he didn't do it with malice. He did it because he wanted better out of you.
You reach in, grab your heart,
yep,
rip it out, knock off all the demons that were bothering you, shove it back in. But he did it for the best reasons.
And you're like, ow. He goes, yeah. Now go do what you're supposed to. You're like, oh, that does work a little better. Yeah. But ow. Okay. All right. Dude.
That was John.
Yep. Well, suppose we should probably introduce the topics for the night. Tonight we got hearing wrong, Madonna complex, and which case scenario? Hearing wrong came today, ironically, while I was washing dishes. I like to put on YouTube music videos, and some of them, because I sometimes, well, I've got hearing challenges anyway, I put on closed captioning. Oh, if you want to see some interesting fun, put on closed captioning on music videos. Closed captioning, obviously, as far as it's come, has not caught up for music. And it kind of struck me the importance of echo talk and the trifecta, because knowing the music as well as I do, being a music freak, it was even funnier when a certain song came on where it was a different version of the video where all it was the lyrics. And so you could see the artist's true lyrics up on the big screen, and down below, closed captioning's interpretation of what the lyrics were. And some of the interpretations were pretty humorous. And yet other ones were like, yeah, nah, not even close. No, nope, they ain't flying. And that's when looking at those, watching that experience made me realize how often do we get offended or hurt or whatever because what we heard was the closed captioning version. And instead of questioning or being proficient in echo talk, we just assume that, well, that's what they said. How dare they say that? I know that echo talk has saved my butt a number of times because I've tried repeating, I've repeated what I heard. I repeated my closed captioning, and the other person's like, that's not what I said. Good, because I was a little concerned. It's especially when your closed captioning is way off from what you expected the lyrics to have been. And if you're doing it enough times with the right person, sometimes they will understand that they don't always speak as clearly as they could. Communication isn't just about talking. It's making sure that the way and how and what you're saying is being interpreted properly by their closed captioning. And hopefully, if you say something that's really, there's enough trust and rapport built in to where they feel comfortable enough to question something that doesn't fit. There are times when I do wish, and I'm sure that somewhere down the line, now that I've said it, here's a new technology for all you techno inventors out there. You've heard it first on Triple T. Closed captioning read on the inside of your glasses so that people who have hearing challenges can just have the words scroll across their glasses. But again, closed captioning would have to be a lot better than it is at the moment, I would believe. Any questions, comments, epiphanies on that so far? Hands are going up. This is good. Holly.
Oh, I wasn't sure if Lenora got her hand up first. This is just the number of things going off in my head right now with this conversation. So I haven't been diagnosed as it, but I believe that I am probably on the autism spectrum disorder, or I have autism spectrum. I'm not going to call it disorder. And two of the things that come up. So one of the things I for sure have is something called auditory processing disorder. And if you're curious about that, I learned about that reading about autism spectrum in Temple Grandin's book. And I took a test online, and the number of words I was getting wrong, because what you do is they say a word, you write what you think it is, and then they write it out and you see if you've got it right. And I was getting some really funny things wrong. And then the other thing I did is I used to watch a show called Lie to Me. And they had a quiz you could get on to see where you were at. And I took the quiz. You're supposed to read people's emotions. So this is the big thing that, you may get the words wrong. If you get the emotions wrong, it's even bigger, the body language. So I think I'm acing it. I think I'm doing so good reading all of this body language. And I get down and I get done and it says, you scored in the 7th percentile. Either you were just playing around, purposely getting things wrong, or you should seriously look into the possibility that you have autism spectrum disorder.
Oh.
So anyway, those are two things that I've been dealing with. But as you were talking, first of all, it occurs to me, even though I might percentile-wise, there's a lot of stuff I know I miss. One of the things I think it's taught me is to second guess what I'm thinking and to say, you know what, this is what I think they said, but there's a decent chance that's not what they said. This is what I think they're feeling, but there's a good chance that's not what they're really feeling. And because one of the things that came up is the importance of being forgiving and the importance of recognizing we might have it wrong. Because I still, I'm working on learning, facial, learning to hear words better. But at the end of the day, there's only so much I could do. At the end of the day, even the computer probably only has so far that it can do for the auto-generated captions. But the one thing we can do is, withhold judgment a little bit more and not, because I think it's not necessarily just the misheard words that's the problem. It's the meaning and intention we assign to the misheard words.
Yes.
And I've seen that on the flip side so many times. And I'm not saying be stupid and open yourself up to attack, because you've got to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But I think having a judgment, but then not being so tied to it that you can't change it if you get new evidence. I think. So I know I just talked a lot, but.
No. All good stuff. I appreciate you sharing that. And to add to that, it bums me out how many people refer to or think of autism as a deficit. It's different. There are a number of people who have done miraculous things that are definitely on the autistic spectrum. They just think differently than the normal people, whatever that is. So I wanted to throw that out there as well. I had the privilege of being a photographer for basically the autistic community around my hometown when I had my photography studio in Minnesota. And it was just because I didn't act, I acted a little differently, but I didn't treat the autistic people like it was a challenge. I just communicated with them differently. And it allowed me to connect with them, and we had a blast. So, Lenora, you had your hand up.
I was going to add that Echo Talk and the Echo Technique, excuse me, has saved so many fights from escalating, and it has also helped just in conversation. I personally think, and I don't want to say it out loud, but I'll say it out loud. I think my hearing's going in my right ear, and there are times where I will hear people say something and I'll echo it, and they're like, "That's not what we said at all." I'm like, "I'm glad I confirmed," and especially when this is something that is extraordinarily helpful when you notice somebody else is escalating in a disagreement, and it allows you to clarify and re-clarify what you said. Because they're taking your words and they're running through the other processor of the person that you're speaking with, and they're hearing what they want to hear, and they'll twist your words intentionally, unintentionally, whatever the case may be. But echoing quite literally allows you to verify what you said. I didn't say it that way. I said what I stated clearly to you was, and then even going, depending on what it is or how much it's escalating, tell me what I'm saying. Repeat after me what I'm saying to you so that you can really hear the words that I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And it really helps and this is where you get into the art of a disagreement or the art of fighting. It really helps you hold your ground without getting wrapped up as much as possible in their shit. You're able to come back and really keep your laser focus on what you're trying to communicate, because they'll also start to, especially people who are not well versed in the art of disagreement, will throw in so much other shit, and you have to keep sorting and keeping that laser, keeping it on the track, or keeping that disagreement on the track, because they'll take you off in so many different ways, and it really, really is extraordinarily powerful. So whether you want to call it echoing to build rapport or echoing to verify and clarify how you're communicating, either way, it's extraordinarily powerful.
100%. I'm so glad you brought that up, because again, it validates the importance of echo talk. And I've had too many people that think that it's just about seduction or dating, or I'm like, no, it's about communication 100% of the time. That's why I say the trifecta, especially echo talk, should be taught to every human being on the planet right after they learn mama dada. There would be a lot less conflict and misunderstanding in the world. And like when you brought up about the conflict, yes, echoing back what they said is very important. Because I've even had people that when I echoed what they said in conflict, they're like, "That's not what I said." Okay, then what did you say? Because those are the words that I heard verbatim. Well, I didn't mean them that way. So you did say that. Yeah, but you're just taking it wrong. Then help me understand. Well, but that's where it's another one of those quantifiers of what are we arguing about? I need to hear exactly what it is that you think the issue is, because obviously you're making it an issue, or I am, or something. And we need to clarify it so we can move forward. And great point, Mark, and I've said it many times. Mark, for those of you that are watching the recording or watching live, you can't see the comments, but Mark put in, I echo my grandkids all the time. And it is such good exercise. And Mark, how much do your grandkids love it? I echo.
They love it a lot. They, again, and because they feel heard, they feel validated, and it just encourages them to do it to each other or do it back to me. They love it.
Amen. Amen.
They love their papa.
Yeah. I echo kids all the time, and they're just like, oh, the tall, skinny dude understands what I'm saying. That is so cool. In fact, Squirrel just told me I got to share this story with you from yesterday. I'm at Home Depot. Those that know me, I know you're shocked. My second home, I should actually get my mail delivered there. I'd get it faster. But so I'm in the paint aisle looking for paint for a project, and this mom and her son come walking by, and he points up and he goes, "There's the red spray paint." And she saw me look over and felt the need to explain. She goes, "He wants to spray paint a red star on his door." And I don't know why, other than the fact that it's just me. I said, "Red, huh? So what kind of energy is in red?" The kid, bless his heart, looks at me. He goes, "What?" I said, "What kind of energy is in red?" And he goes, "I don't know. I'm in third grade." I said, "You're in third grade? Awesome. But what kind, if red had an energy to it, what kind of energy would it have? Would it have empowering energy? Would it have strong energy? Would it have healing energy? What kind of energy would it have?" And he goes, "I don't know." I said, "You want to try something really cool?" He goes, "Okay." And I looked at Mom, and even Mom's like, "Okay, where are we going with this?" I said, "Give your mom your phone." I said, what red do you like the best?" And he pointed at a can, so I reached up and I grabbed it. I said, "Now close your eyes and put your hands out." And he looks at Mom. She's like, "Okay." So he put his hands out, and I grabbed another can of spray paint, and I turned him upside down, and I touched one to his hand. I said, "Do you like this energy better, or do you like this energy better?" He goes, "I like this one." It wasn't red. So I switched them, and I said, "Okay, do you like this one better or this one better?" Again, he didn't pick the red. So I lifted him up and rattled him around like I was grabbing a different one. "Do you like this one or this one?" Again, it wasn't red. So I reached up and I grabbed another can and added to the mix. "Do you like this one or this one?" "I like this one." And we went through this about 9 times, and the last 2 I had a can of white. No, last 3 I had a can of white against another color. And each time he picked the last 3, he picked the white. And I said, "Okay, now open your eyes." And he opened his eyes, and I said, "You picked the white the most, and you turned down the red 3 times in a row. Ask your mom." He was like, "What?" Looked at his mom, and I said, "White energy is a really good energy. It's healing energy." And his mom goes, "Yeah, he wants to paint a star on black on his door." I said, "Well, the white would really pop and it'd give you good energy. Now, what kind of star are you talking?" He goes, "I don't know." I said, "Well, are you thinking like a 5-pointed star like the Texas star? Or are you thinking like a starburst? Are you thinking a galaxy or something like that?" He goes, "Oh, galaxy would be kind of cool." I said, "Maybe you should look up when you were born and see what kind of constellation coincides with your birthday. And then you could paint that in white on your door on the black." And his mom goes, "That is such a, thank you for that cool demonstration." I was like, "It's what I do. You're welcome." here's my card. I can teach you this stuff. Again, anytime, anywhere, for any reason. But even then, I was echoing him, which, was, I guess, kind of how this all got started. Anyhow, squirrel. Welcome to my squirrels. Any other ahas, epiphanies, things that you want to add to that before we try and fit 2 more topics in? Yes, welcome to the crazy world of Planet TJ. Well, then I guess we're going to move into Madonna complex. And no, this doesn't mean you're wearing pointy bras and singing crazy stuff on stage.
Material Girl in Vogue.
Yeah, although I'm sure that gave a few people a complex, but that's not what this is about. Got a client who came to me for relationship challenges, which I'm getting a lot of lately. And they've been married for about 10 years. And they recently found out that they're suspecting highly that their partner is having an affair. And they talked about how both of them had talked about how crazy they were, what kind of sex life they had before they met and got married. And when they got married, none of that came to fruition. In fact, they'd had the least amount of sex that they'd had in quite a while after they got married. Part of why when I was DJing wedding dances, I always turned down the wedding cake because I said it destroys your sex drive. Stop typing, it's a joke. It's a joke. True enough, but it's a joke. And so I introduced them to the concept of the Madonna complex, which, for those of you that have never heard that before, happens mainly to married couples, where the concept is of the actual Madonna. The partner becomes the Madonna, and you wouldn't ask them or expect them to do the dirty deeds that you did back in the day with people that you didn't have that level of care and can't think of the word right now, where I guess judgment, maybe, when you're in a relationship of that magnitude. Safety, vulnerability, all of the above. And so back in the swinging days of singleness, if you told a partner that you like to do freaky stuff, and they were like, ew, that's gross, you're like, yeah, I was just kidding. And then you don't call them anymore. And you go find somebody else. But soon as that commitment, that ring, that all the above, that's not quite as convenient. And so with the Madonna complex, a lot of partners will not entertain or bring that stuff up, or if they do, it's kind of jokingly to look for a reaction. And when I brought this up, my client was like, wow, And I said, no, you said that both of you had discussed that you'd had kind of a fun sex life before you got together. Have you tried any of the things that you did before or tried bringing them up? And they admitted, well, you know, I mentioned it a couple of times. And I said, well, was it like a soft lob? Well, yeah. And I've had a couple other clients that I had to work through with this as well. And they admitted that even when they brought it up, for some reason, their partner, even though they knew that their partner had done these things before they got together, their partner simply wouldn't follow through on it with them. And they didn't know how to address it or how to take care of it. And so I wanted to bring this up here for any of you that are working with clients to understand or help them work through. And I wish I had the perfect answer for you. You just, you know, you do this protocol and everything's fine. But it does come down to clear communication, I guess, trust and all the above, and probably values and criteria elicitation between the two. Any questions, comments, epiphanies on this topic?
It's a very interesting one.
Thank you. And Holly.
Still kind of processing this, but I will say if this is something people want more information on, Esther Perel has some really good videos online that you can see. I think she's got some books as well that kind of talk about this idea of also, and I might even already been mentioned before, but just kind of this concept of long-term relationships, and we start focusing on safety, on paying bills, you know, day-to-day stuff, but also that for attraction, we also need a little bit of risk and how and also distance versus closeness. So, you know, long-term relationship, we're close, but the thing that you can't have, the thing that you're, you know, chasing after, that's kind of often what will spark interest, spark desire. And so she'll talk a lot about when you're in a relationship, how do you get this balance of being safe enough to be in a relationship, but still risky enough and edgy enough to spark desire? How do you be close enough to trust each other, but still create that distance so that you actually desire each other and miss each other occasionally? So
good points. And I had forgotten one little part about this where when I was learning about this, they had mentioned that a lot of the mafia guys, this is where a lot of the understanding came from, especially in the New York mafia. Great, now I've got a hit on my name. They would have their side girls, and they would have their wife, because they wouldn't do things to their wife that they would do to these side girls, to the hookers. And a lot of times the wife knew about it because they knew that it was a way for, as long as they knew what was going on. Okay, so my hubby's got that, and I will be taken care of. I'm the wife. I'm the queen. He makes love to me. To clean words, he does things to the other girls that he won't do to me. The biggest mistake the other girls could make is thinking because they allowed that to happen to them, that they would have the chance to take over the position of the wife. And that's usually when the other girls got run out of town, or if they really didn't get it, may have possibly disappeared. Because the wife was like, no, I'm the queen. You're his. But that was the Madonna complex there, where the guys were like, yeah, you're here for a purpose. I would never talk to my wife, or I would never do this thing to my wife. That's my wife. And I'm sorry, Lenora, you had your hand up?
I was just gonna, it's very interesting, and I don't think, at least for me, and I feel like a number of other people on this call would probably venture to guess that they were not necessarily taught how to handle yourself in a fight, but also understand that going into the marriage, or going into any relationship really, no matter how nice your intentions are, you're eventually going to have a disagreement. And those disagreements eventually end without proper clearing and without processing and without really a deep understanding on both parties. That crack in the vase happens again and again and again. And then to have such an intimate relationship with somebody and then transition it to sex is very difficult to navigate, because now you're wanting this person to keep you safe in this area when they couldn't keep you safe in that area. So it really is, I don't know if I find the Madonna thing, I hear it, but I think there's so many other things, and I wish Maurice was on this call, because I know Maurice would have so many things to say about this. And he's just a wealth of knowledge, especially when it comes to the deeper things that we now understand with masculinity and femininity, and how to have that balance and how to move through it gracefully. And I think Holly, she had said, a phase of resistance or a phase of processing that's going on. And it is something to be said that you're constantly moving and clearing yourself. And the other thing that I thought the other day was, for as much as work as we do, we still have some sort of memory of what this person did. So now you have to be able to have cleared enough of that memory emotion away to be able to move forward, so that you can have this other deeper relationship. Ultimately, that version of them and that version were you, and we're in another timeline, and now you're in a new timeline. But now you're oscillating back and forth between the two. So now you're bringing all that shit from that timeline into this timeline, and working to the best of your ability to move forward with the best intentions, but still carrying pain on some level. So the complexities of being human, ladies and gentlemen, good heavens.
Amen. Holly.
Oh, that was so brilliant. It also opened a whole new avenue of thought for me too, but just a couple things that so another YouTube channel that I watch a lot is called The Marriage Helper. And what it is this couple, the husband had an affair, left his wife, married his mistress. They went through the limerence thing. That died out. And later on, they were able to build a relationship with he was able to build a relationship with his first wife, and they were able to get back together again. And they have basically taken their experience. They've talked to many other people who've been through it, and they've created a program where they help people who are dealing with affairs, basically. And one of the things they say is, they don't necessarily recommend everybody get back together again. You can't just get back together because, oh, I got bored with my mistress, now I want you back. That's not a good enough reason. She made him prove he was a different person, prove that he had learned from his experience, that he was genuinely sorry, that he was growing emotionally. And she said she had to look at herself and say, what was it about this relationship that I started taking it for granted? And I, started being boring, and he needed to go out. Like, they both
And once again, they did this individually before they even got back together. They did it for whoever they thought they were going to be with next, not knowing who that was, if that makes sense. But one of the things, something that Lenora said that really sparked in my mind too, is you don't have to take the person back. You can take the person back. That's a choice. There's a lot of things that go into it. But if you make the decision to take the person back and they've earned the right to get that second chance, one of the things you have to do is you say, okay, I forgive the past. Doesn't mean it's okay, doesn't mean whatever, but you have to have that person starting from a clean slate, because otherwise they're spending the rest of the relationship always making up for the same thing over and over and over and over again. And basically they've been put in a place where they can't win because they're in such a deep hole that they can never get out of. So it's a rough thing, but it's, it's one of those things like if you can't, and that doesn't mean that you have to make that decision immediately. Maybe you have to take 2 months to see if they're making progress. And if they mess up again, that doesn't mean you completely ignore it. But the point is, if they are proving that they deserve that second chance, you have to give them a place where they can win. And you have to be honest with yourself and say, if I can't forgive them, the best thing I could do for them and me and my kids, if there are kids involved, is to move on. We're only going to try to make this work if we can actually start, if I could genuinely give them a clean slate.
Yep, absolutely. Mark.
I'm hearing a lot of brilliance tonight from Holly and Lenora. But something you said at the beginning, you had a client who suspects her husband is cheating on her. And women always know. They may not know that they know, they may be in denial, but in fact, it's become part of our culture for a woman after she finds out, that her husband is cheating. I knew that bastard was cheating. I just didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to believe what her eyes are telling her, because she asked the question before the electrochemical signals hit his larynx to deny it, the facial, because he makes a particular face when he's lying. Okay. So women always, but they have to be brave enough to ask the question. But there's a caveat in there where never ask your man a question you don't want to know the answer to, because you're going to know the answer before the words spill out of his mouth. Okay. You got to be careful with that, yeah, if she, like I said, but if you want the truth, again, the body can't lie. And if you ask the question, the answer will be written on his face.
That, and listen to your gut brain. Women's gut brains are far more evolved than men's. And they've also proven that women have more brain cells than men do. Scientific fact, so I'm not even going to argue with it. And I don't even get to use it as buttering up to the ladies. It just is what it is. So yes, you ladies are smarter than us, and you have smarter gut brains than we do, which is a good thing because we're men. Anything else before I've got 6 minutes to try and finish 3 topics? Here we go again. If not, this one will actually be pretty simple. Which case scenario? Well, those of you that have been around Planet TJ long enough have heard me talk extensively on the importance of best case scenario thinking. And the saying that I say over and over and over is best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. The one that will happen the most is the one that you feed the most attention and energy to, because that's what you'll be looking for, even though both have just as many parts surrounding you. Now, I know that was a pretty deep saying, but to break it down into the easiest sense, is it's just like the red car scenario or the red item scenario. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, you can ask somebody, how many red cars did you see on the way here? I don't know. Well, if I told you that I would pay you $50 for each red car that you saw on the way here, how many more do you think you'd see? Well, I'd be looking for them. I'd see them all. Worst case scenario. How many of you are right with a bunch of your worst case scenarios? Told you it wouldn't work. Because you were looking for every possible way that it wouldn't work, instead of every possible way that it could work. And traveling down that road, well, there's an off ramp that'll make sure it doesn't work. Oh, here's another off ramp that leads to where it might not work. Oh, and pretty soon, look at that, it didn't work, just like I told you. And then you ask them, do you know anybody who's really lucky? Oh yeah, that so and so, that. Or people will ask me, how can you be so optimistic? How can you be so certain? How can you be so certain? Because it doesn't cost me any more than it costs me to be uncertain. And in the quantum of possibilities, best case scenario has just as much probability as worst case scenario. Bless you. And the one that will happen the most, that you will see the most, will be the one that you pay the most attention and feed the most energy to, even though both of them have just as much quantity around you. Holly.
Okay, this is actually something that I probably would have brought up in the second hour, so perfect transition anyway. But so this is an interesting, I'm trying to figure out, because logically everything you're saying makes sense. And I can think of, when I'm looking for patterns, I can think of times in my life where focusing on the worst case scenario made it happen, focusing on the best case scenario also made it happen. But I can also think of a ton of times in my life where focusing on the best case scenario made the worst case scenario happen, and focusing on the worst case scenario made the best case scenario happen. And I think there's a difference. I'm curious to get people's opinions on this. I start thinking about it. When I focus on worst case scenario, I'm not focusing on it going to happen. What I focus on is, if it happens, can I survive it? If it happens, what is my strategy? And so I was just, because something you were saying about, you focus on what could go wrong. I'm not focused, or, the focus is not on what can go wrong. The focus is on how can I respond in a healthy way to what goes wrong so that it can't be bad. And I'm wondering if that's the key difference there.
Real quick, a squirrel delivered this to me. And it's a saying that I wish I knew, I could remember who said it. And it was, expect the best, prepare for the worst.
That describes it perfectly.
Always expect the best, prepare for the worst. It doesn't mean focus on the worst that can happen. Just have yourself prepared in the event that it should happen, while you constantly expect the best.
That explains a ton of it. Yeah, because it's I can focus on the best case scenario because I've prepared for the worst. And if it happens, I know immediately what I'm going to do to get me back to the best anyway. Whereas, yeah, there's a big difference. I think there's a big difference between focusing on the best after preparing for the worst versus focusing on the best and not preparing for the worst because it can't happen, if that makes sense.
Yep. And, oh, that squirrel ran away with that one. I had a great thought, and Michael.
It's what I do every day. I do sales, and so the people I see, nobody comes in to buy what I have. And so you always have to look for the way in because it's so easy to find the way out.
Yep. It's also kind of like the saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yep.
But those that know me know that I do my best to stay as optimistic as possible. And I know that when I talk with people, the more certain I can talk to them about best case scenario, the better chance I believe they have of leaving in the proper destination, proper direction. Because time's going to pass anyway. But real quick, Holly, one study that I or one profound, I don't know if it was study, it sounds like it could be, sounds good, I'm going to go with that. Overthinkers are focused on worst case scenario. They're never focused people almost never overthink best case scenario. Let that sink in. People almost never overthink best case scenario. It's always worst case scenario. Yeah, we're going to take a trip. We're going to drive from here to Phoenix. And the overthinkers, yeah, but what if we have a flat? What if the transmission goes bad? What if we get caught in a monsoon? What if a truck? What if a plane's flying overhead and like the cargo door lets go and it slams right on top of us? It's never, well, what if we make it the whole way without a problem? What if the weather's perfect the entire way? What if we stop at a hotel and they upgrade us to a better room for free? I mean, then what are we gonna do? I don't know. Let's go find out. Holly.
I just had another squirrel that kind of popped in my head as we're talking about this too. I think it was Dr. Amen that said this originally, but one of the problems with worst case scenario when we're focusing on it too is we actually aren't focusing on worst case scenario. We're freezing halfway through the process. And so, okay, what if I get hit by a truck? Okay, if you stop, oh no, I got hit by a truck. I got hit by a truck. I got hit by a truck. It can really freak you out, or I could get hit by a truck. But if it's okay, well, what if I get hit by a truck? Then I will call a mechanic. I'll get my car towed. I'll get it fixed. I'll go to the doctor. I'll get checked out. I'll heal from it. My car will be better. And 5 years later, I'll barely remember that it happened. Sometimes those worst case scenarios, the energy we're putting into them is nothing if you play it all the way out to its conclusion. The problem is that we're getting stuck halfway through the process and we're focusing on the halfway point.
Yeah, great point. Great point. That's why I like to stop people when they get into that stinking thinking worst case scenario. Oh my gosh. And I like to do what I just did. Well, as long as we're thinking worst case scenario, let's go for it. Let's run this thing. Because I got planes flying overhead all the time. I mean, I could sit here and freak out because how many things have we heard in the news lately where, oh, we didn't need that door anyway. Well, it could come crashing right through my roof right now. Yeah, there's a very slight chance that could happen. Hasn't happened in, the neighborhood that I know of, but right now I've got something I can worry about that isn't worth the energy unload. And we're 5 minutes over the hour. which means it's now your guys' time, and here I am talking about the last subject. So, open mic, open platform, and you guys can either keep running with this, or if you've got a new topic or question that you want to bring forth, this is your opportunity. So who's got something? Mark.
I was just thinking as you were starting, pre-podcast, pre-YouTube and all that stuff, I said, gee, I wonder what would be a good theme song, for, for TTT. So you start the podcast with with some kind of music and, some kind of theme. And because the thought that popped into my head is because you're penchant for those ties, maybe the Looney Tunes theme, but I'd like to get everybody's input. What would be a good, theme song for TTT, so we could, so you could start the podcast with that.
That's awesome.
Just saying.
From the Mod Squad.
You guys are awesome.
I'll jump in. I mean, obviously, there's the practical side of if you're on YouTube, you've got copyright issues to worry about. I love the Looney Tunes theme. That sounds amazing. But actually, you could get around even the copyright issues. If we were to come up with our own theme song, we could probably get on Fiverr and have somebody record it for us, and then we would actually have the ability to do it. So I love that idea too. I'm gonna have to think about other options, but I love the Looney Tunes theme.
Right on. What about Jeopardy? Do, 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 do. Welcome to Triple T.
Did I miss a question? Did something come up? Sorry, I stepped away.
What's the appropriate theme tune for Triple T?
The intro music. Mark said he was sitting there thinking about what kind of music I would use to start up Triple T. And he said the Looney Tunes.
I was gonna go. I feel like somewhere between like do 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 and like a twist of Jeopardy. Yeah, we gotta make a hybrid. You're good with sounds. I feel like you could do something on the mixing board.
Yeah.
Random thought, but whatever you use to do, the crazy music you're supposed to play when you're playing your memories backwards to erase them, like the fast phobia.
Oh yeah.
Something like that.
Isn't that the clown one? Like do do do?
It could be that one too. That's not the one I've
Okay.
been using, but that definitely could be used for it.
Ah, okay. Catchy. You're welcome, all of you. When you go to sleep tonight, you'll now be singing it.
Do, 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 do. Mod Squad. There you go, brother.
I'm telling you.
You guys are
Maybe
awesome.
we could have maybe TJ could come up with a whole list of them, and then everybody that pops in can put their vote.
There you go.
Democracy at work.
We'll have an
Yeah,
intro.
right.
We'll use Canva. We'll make an intro. It'll be great.
Oh, TTT, like the Canadian.
Yeah, then I could really come in with my DJ voice. Welcome to Triple T, your place for. On a completely different subject, real quick though, on was it Facebook or Instagram, whatever? They showed an old reel of Mel Blanc on the Johnny Carson show. Probably the last time Mel Blanc was on the Johnny Carson show. And one of the things Johnny asked him was how many different voices he could make. And Mel said, for people that don't know, at one point Mel had suffered a very serious accident, was in a body cast, was in a coma for a long time. They didn't know if he would make it. And the doctor had a great epiphany. Everybody was trying to get Mel to get any type of reaction to see if he was brain dead or not, because back at that time they didn't have the technology they do now. And the doctor said, "Is Bugs Bunny around?" And through his coma, Mel Blanc answered in the voice of Bugs Bunny. "Hey, Doc. Yeah, we're in here." But Mel said that while he was laying in the hospital bed in this body cast, he got bored one day and thought about how many voices he could come up with, and he started that first thing in the morning. When he fell asleep that night, he had counted 400 different voices that he could do. And he revealed how he came up with a lot of them for different projects. He said that they would show him a drawing of the character and then a little timeline drawing of what the character would do. And then he would have to get in the mind of what that might sound like and how the voice would be. And that's how he did them. Talk about Identity Management University. Woohoo! Lenora.
I love that story. I've never heard it before. I think it's fantastic. A lot of the time, especially when people have a traumatic brain injury or a stroke, that part of the brain can be impaired. And there are times where things are easier for them to say versus their normal speech. So, for example, somebody quite literally will have difficulty saying, "How are you?" or "Are you having pain?" But if you start singing happy birthday to them, or if you start singing a nursery rhyme to them, these words will start just flying out. And it's because it's being pulled up in a different part of the brain. And it's extraordinary to witness. And I'm so glad that he definitely had a much better story than some people I've heard. So that's amazing.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Same thing with people like Mel Tillis. They couldn't understand how Mel Tillis they accused him of faking his stuttering. Oftentimes. And he goes, "Well, then how can you sing like that?" He goes, "That's the only way." A lot of times when he would be stuttering, he would finally just sing the sentence because he could deliver it. But I used the same approach when I was working with Dr. David in his classes, when we were teaching MLP, and we would do a exercise called word salad. And people would have a list of different metaphors or types of words, and they would have to tell a story or talk using all of these particular words. And watching these people struggle, they would be like, what? And I would go up to them and I'd say, "Okay, now what I want you to do, come up with a story, but I want you to do it in the voice of a pirate. Disney, do it in the voice of a Disney pirate. And you're talking to, you're about to throw somebody overboard." And all of a sudden they go from to, "Oi, matey, and they're reading, bam, 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 off the list. And And they go through the entire list, look at me, and they're like, what the? I said, I gave you an outcome, a storyline, and I let you use your imagination versus trying to do it as a standard conversation. I think that's one of the main reasons why taking improv classes and method acting classes can improve your ability to communicate immensely. Yes, Lenora.
I'm gonna shameless plug here
Awesome.
for all of you and for TJ, especially when it comes to communication and public speaking, stepping outside the realm of strokes and traumatic brain injuries. My TEDx talk was released today, and TJ was someone who helped me significantly move through the battleground of public speaking. There was once a point where he had asked me to, and we were in a session one-on-one, and he had asked me to say my name and to tell the audience that I had important things to say, and I'm in trance, and those words were not coming out of my mouth to save my life. And there were tears, and sleeve snot and all that great stuff. So thank you very much, TJ, because you have helped me come very, very, very far indeed. And my TEDx was released today, and I didn't post about it, but I will. I'm going to post it tomorrow. But I wanted to share it with you all because you were all actually in the audience when I was practicing and recording and practicing and recording. One of the suggestions that TJ had shared with me was to put all of Triple T in the audience, and everyone that has supported me over the years, and you were all there with me. So thank you very much for being in my life, and I appreciate you very much. Oh, and Holly, also, when I had come on earlier in the call, and Holly's insights were fantastic. So thank you, everyone, for being in my life.
And stuff. Yes. And I get to publicly say, uber super duper proud of you, because I watched it just before this, and yeah. So everybody, I recommend watch it and spread it around, because there are lots of people that need to hear about it. So there.
Thank you.
Okay, now who wants to try and top that? Well, while we're on the, yes, good
I
answer.
wasn't trying to put everybody on mute. I'm sorry.
Group hug, everybody.
Mark, that's so cute.
How about, is there anything else you want to share with the people about your insights and your travel through getting up to on stage, being a public speaker from where you started?
From where I started was quite honestly, it was a hot mess. And when I first learned about David Snyder many years ago, and through the wonderful world of YouTube University, and I finally had the opportunity to go to his in-person conference, and it was in 2020. And unfortunately, he was coming to the East Coast, and I couldn't actually physically be there because COVID occurred. And one thing that always had stuck out to me was that I was having a very hard time. Up until that point, I could not figure out how to help myself. I had terrible eating disorder, terrible emotional eating habits, and it was just nothing short of hell on wheels that I felt like I was living in. And I kept thinking, like, let me just get through this conference. It'll be okay when I got through this conference. I got to the end of the conference and I still had like a fuck ton of problems. And at the end of the conference, they had said, reach out to our clinic if you would like to work with one of our coaches one-on-one. And I couldn't dial fast enough and leave a voice message. And the person that I had left a message with, they called me the next day and they connected me with TJ a couple days later. And I don't know if some of you are coaches or where you are in your life. I know it's frustrating to be a coach and to want to help people and not to have that come back to you, as in people wanting to receive your help necessarily, or wanting to sign up, and it's this crazy underworld of trying to figure out how to share what you do with the world and how to have people really understand what you do. But that being said, if you're in that situation, I truly hope you keep going and you find ways to keep sharing what you know and how you help people, because it can very well be the difference between life and death for some people. And while I was going through my years of hell, TJ was somewhere on the other side of the world learning how to help people. And I'm so glad that he did, because he was able to help me. And he really did save my life, because I would not have lived another year the pain that I was in. So please keep going. Please keep finding ways to help people. Such great work. And I know I'm really squeaky right now, and I apologize. But what you know and how you share it is helping people. I promise you it's helping people. Even if you don't see it, I promise you it's helping people. So keep going.
Holly.
Gosh, see if I can talk straight, because I'm also so emotional right now. Thank you for being so vulnerable and genuine and sweet with us, Lenora. It means the world. One of the things too that is, going through my hell at the moment, why am I going through this? Why am I going through this? There's got to be a reason. And this right now, when you were talking about that, this popped in my head over and over and over again. Dean Graziosi, for those of you who know who he is, one of his biggest things is your mess is your message. And it's like, when you're in it, it's like, how could this be my message? I'm not perfect at it. It's nearly killing me. How could this be my message? But, the truth is, the more I get to know it, the thing that you're most embarrassed about, the thing that nearly kills you, the thing that makes you think that you're not perfect, it really is your message. And people need to hear that, and need to hear that you're not perfect, because, that's how people can trust us, is because we've been through it. We know what it's like. So thank you so much for sharing that, Lenora. Absolutely beautiful.
How does Lisa Sasevich describe it?
So your panties.
That's it. You got to let people know you're human. I haven't been afraid to tell people about my challenges, my shortcomings, because that's how I learned to understand a lot of stuff. Kind of like the old wise tale. Be careful what you ask for, because if you ask for patience, the universe will put you in a place where you need to learn some patience. If you want to learn understanding, the universe will put you in a place where you have to learn understanding. You don't get it, you earn it, you learn it. There's no testimony without a test. And I've failed a few, squeaked by on a few, had to retake a few. Oh, I've had to retake a couple of them. Woo! But we're all here. And somebody, the reason I believe so much in this platform, I'm not concerned about having 2 trillion views. I'm concerned about having one that needs to see it. And I've been blessed. I've had people that have given out emergency calls that the clinic forwarded saying, I know it's your day off, but this person called and said they're suicidal. Will you see them? Duh. Yeah. And the
I
funniest
think if
thing
you do,
is,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, the cool thing about it, one of them just called me back, or had another session with me last week. And life, after they got a hold of me when they had already written out their suicide note, that's how close they were. And you know how I shocked them into reality? They said, and I've already written my suicide note. And I said, good. They were like, wait, what? I said, good. You've already died. Don't take the last half an inch step. Consider yourself already dead. What are you going to do now? The worst is over. You've already decided that the people in your life don't need to have you around. You've already decided that the place that you work doesn't need your skill sets anymore. You've already decided that the bank doesn't deserve your money anymore. What are you going to do now? And I went through a bunch of protocols with them, and that was 2 years ago. And so last week when they contacted, oh, my life's a hot mess, and da-da-da-da-da, and I said, you've already survived worse. You've already died once. What did you learn from that? And they were like, well, I didn't even think of it that way. You're right. They said, after I talked with you, my life went amazingly because I cut a bunch of people out of my life. I got a new job. I said, yeah. And then you fell into a couple of habits. You got tricked by a gaslighting, narcissistic a-hole because you forgot to test until it was too late and you were attached to him. But now that he's gone, are you ready to reinvent yourself again? Because I've reinvented myself how many times, Mom? let's give a round of applause for my mother, who watched me go through so many things and went, okay, honey, I love you. You can do this. I hope. And she's watched me stumble head first and face plant, but she's also watched me take off and soar and do things that I said I was going to do, that I had no idea how I was going to do it. I just wanted to do it. She found out about a couple of things after the fact, like when she found out that I was sleeping in a car down in Phoenix, Arizona. What? I'm fine, Mom. No, you're not. You're homeless. I'm like, no, I got a car. Honey, okay, you're half a step above homeless. Yes, but I'm fine. And she's supported me all the way through, all the way to here. And that's been a blessing, a constant blessing the whole time. And I know that some people don't have that in a parent. But I grew up in a village of 187 people. I had 3 dads, a couple of 5, 6 moms. No offense, Mom. Mom knows exactly what I'm talking about. She even knows who they were. And we were free-range kids, tossed out of the house in the morning and told not to come back until the street lights came on. No cell phones. No locked doors. Keys in cars. Somehow I made it. Made it all the way to today so that I could talk to you guys. Yes! But enough about me. This is your hour. What else do you want to... Mark?
Well, my mind just exploded with all that, again. But I've always tried to do good to help people, working with people with disabilities and, just trying to, like I said, I've always been a helper. And I believe that comes back to you, okay, in very subtle ways sometimes. And there have been some times in my life where I've skated over some remarkably thin ice, like millimeters thick, and I should have fallen through and drowned. But I believe that all the good that I do, helping people, that's when it comes back to you. And, it's a null-sum universe, but yeah, there have been a lot of times that the ice has been very thin and I just somehow skated over it. And turning to suicide, I like to give people that tell me that they're suicide something to hang on to, an image. And I tell them, I said, okay, if they're an adult and they have kids, just imagine your kid being the valedictorian of his high school class. He's up there and, he's giving the speech. He's looking out at the audience and he sees his mother. And he sees an empty chair next to his mother. You don't want that picture to come true. Okay. So you can't think about yourself. Every time you think that, you're supposed to, that you want to do something, you want to hurt yourself, think about that image. And that's something to hang on to, that you do not want to see that empty chair. You don't want him to see that empty chair, And there was a story I tell about a guy who came home from work. He got fired at work. He came into the house, the bills were stacked to the roof. They were taking his house. The wife left him a Dear John letter that she was taking the kids and leaving him. So he said, well, I'm just going to end it. So he went to this little motel and, and because he was a nice guy, he didn't want to disturb the neighbor. He bought a gun and you know, he was sitting there and he turned on the TV because he didn't want to disturb the neighbors when he you know, hurt himself. And he turned on a news thing that had come on the news, and it was about this town out in the Midwest, and it had been obliterated by this dynamite truck that had gone over the cliff, and you know, and just rampant devastation. You know, entire neighborhood was destroyed. You know, and his wife had spent their honeymoon in that town, and he just sat on the you know, he sat on the edge of the bed with the gun in his hand. And he's watching. You know, these kids went to school and they come home and their parents are gone, their house is gone, their entire life is gone, you know, and you know, and he got so into the you know, you know, the TV coverage of this that, you know, about a half an hour later they ended the coverage, and he comes back to the room where he's at, and he's like, changed his perspective. He's like, I can get a new job, I can get a new house, I can get a new wife, and it changed his entire perspective because of that one, you know, story that he realized that, you know, he was alive and he could, you know, he could, you know, yeah, like you said, be born again. And you know, that's a story I like to tell, is you know, that you know, he came to that realization, you know, and he's in the room and he's got a gun in his hand. He's like, I'm not doing that, you know. And in that moment he was reborn to reinvent himself.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, we do good, we help people, and I think it's a null sum universe that comes back to. I kind of hope it comes back to me winning Mega Millions tonight, but I don't get large, you know, those things. I feel I'm very lucky. People say I'm very lucky, but in small ways, you know. But
Well, now you're becoming luckier in bigger ways. You
well,
didn't get millions before, not yet, but now it's coming to you.
Well, I hope it manifests tonight. Let me tell you, and I'll give
Now I
half
feel
of it
like-
away. Absolutely, I guarantee I will give half of the money away.
I was gonna say, I feel like we should do a triple T lottery. Everybody Venmo somebody.
Well, but yeah, I think it's a null sum universe. If you do good, it will. You know, the Bible says, you know, if you do evil, evil will be visited on you. But they didn't finish it. When you do good, it does come back to you. You know, and I believe that, and I live that. That when you do good, when you help people, it comes back to you in ways you can't possibly anticipate or expect. But good things happen, you know, and it's because we're putting our positive energy into the universe, and it comes back to us in dribs and drabs, you know. But it does come back to us because I think it's a null sum universe.
Absolutely agree. And when you were telling a story about that person, it reminded me of the movie A Man Called Ova. And Hollywood redid it, A Man Called Otto, and they had, can't remember his name, redo
Tom
it.
Hanks.
But, yeah, Tom Hanks redid it. But they Hollywooded it. The original that was made in Sweden, much better, in my opinion. If you're going to watch both of them, please watch the original one first. But the funny part is how many times he decides that he's going to end it, and how many times the universe steps in. And I'm not going to ruin the movie, but it's worth watching. And we got 20 minutes. What am I thinking? 20 minis. Carry the one, move the decimal point.
Before you say, that's all, folks.
There was a setup AV guy for Hypno Thoughts for many years that he loved when I would wear my Scooby-Doo tie because he wanted me to laugh like Scooby-Doo. They say every person on the planet dies twice. The first time when you take your final breath, the second time when nobody remembers who you were. Some people will never die. Some people will live much longer than others, sadly.
Did you ever see that movie, or did any of you see that movie, Coco?
Yes.
It's a Pixar movie. It's actually a really beautiful movie, and that it goes to, at least to me, it goes on with that concept of you don't die if people keep remembering you.
Yep, 100%. I thought of it as I would describe it, I couldn't remember the name. I think I've watched pretty much every Pixar style movie that came out since they started doing that. There's the beautiful Fran. Always a pleasure to see that smiling face.
Thank you. I've been listening, but now I can join you face to face. Thank you.
Well,
And awesome topics. Brilliant. Thank you. Oh, and I'll just jump in since I've got the mic.
yes, please.
and, and just say that, on the topics that have been covered, very often the absolute worst appearing situation in my life has actually been a gateway to the best of opportunities and learning. The time when you're really squashed on the ground, it's actually an opportunity and opening possibilities. You can't see it at the time, which is a bit of a bummer, but it's the opening for so much potential wonderful stuff, and all the strengths and learnings that you get from going down where you can't go down any further. The only way is up. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Had I not lost everything in Minnesota, I would not have been in San Diego long enough to meet Dr. David, which means I wouldn't have met all you beautiful people. So there it is. And ironically, if we want to take it a step further, had I not chosen to do my internship in Yellowstone in 1988, I would not have met John Kellen, who got me into World Ventures, which is how I met David while I was in San Diego.
Another thought to throw into that mix is that very often the things we think that are the worst about ourselves, if you just flip the coin, the other side of that is very often it's the best things about ourselves. It's just looking at it a different way, using it a different way. So, the things that you're ashamed of in you, they're very often the most powerful parts of you. Just turn it over and see the other side.
Yep.
I just shared a video like that on Facebook, and it said hate and love, 4 letters, and every negative word, there was a positive word with the same number of letters, and it's just how you flip it. So good job.
Okay, kids, we got 15 minutes left in your time. Lenora, what you got?
Mike, was that the one where this graduate is talking and he had talked about his mom sharing that? Okay, if you have the link, drop it in the chat, because I can't remember where I saw it or who sent it to me or if I sent it to somebody else. It was beautiful. And yeah, you all just have to absolutely watch it. And if you put it in, Mike, I'll pop it in on the YouTube channel also. That way people can see it. Really powerful. I know now everybody's lost in the weeds, but trust me, it's worth it.
I have another question I'll throw
Please.
out there. Just squirrel just popped in. Who's the most powerful practitioner that you've ever encountered? Again, it doesn't have to be in any particular, but it doesn't have to be an NLP or, again, I find that, some of the names that you've, like I said, you've got, Chase and Dr. David and, I mentioned John a lot, but, who are some of the most powerful people that you've ever met? And you just kind of knew that they were, and they probably had to go through some of their own, trials and tribulations to become that. But, who are some of the most powerful people you've ever met?
I'm going to jump in, and I love that question, and I find very specifically that it would depend on what I was looking at that time. Depending on, for example, I think Jason Linnett's ability to tell stories and to open loops and close loops is phenomenal. He's got an exquisite ability to really just, his neurons are fired and wired completely that way. And I think he's very captivating in sharing his stories. That's just me personally. There's other people who really resonate, and I think it just depends on that person. And here's one thing that I often think. For as many people as we have found in this field and who we really latch onto and who we focus on, I love traveling, but I especially love traveling to the airport. And I'm one of those weirdos that I go like 4 hours early because I love to people watch and I love to walk around. And I feel like it just levels the playing field. You have no idea who anybody is, and you don't have this preconceived idea of, oh, they're driving a BMW, or they have this car. Oh, look at their house. You don't got a clue. You are all on the same playing field, and everybody's going through security in the same way. And it just really lets your mind expand of, I wonder what they know. I wonder whose life they're impacting. I wonder what fun things that they can do that I don't know about or that I've never heard about. And that's one of the things that I love about traveling is just, you get really curious about, wow, I wonder where they've been. No, that didn't answer your question, but one that popped in.
I've got an entire grove of squirrels freaking out over there that I've got so many things to add to this. One of the things that I used to do before I got into all this stuff is, especially when I was bartending and things like that, I would get people into the idea of we would pick out somebody and I go, okay, profile them for me. And we get 3 or 4 different people playing the profiling game. What kind of work do they do? Do they have kids? Da da da. And I was always the brave enough one to. Sorry, Mark. That was awesome because you have to understand your wife didn't come into the picture until this far away from your lips. So all we saw was you going. And then out of the blue, there was a flash of your wife's face giving you a kiss, and then she was gone. That was amazing. See, I told you.
She's incandescent. That's how I describe her. You should see her in front of a group of first graders. She's just incandescent.
Like I said, my squirrels have squirrels who have squirrels that have squirrels. So anyhow, back to the story before I forget. I would be the one that would go up to the people that we were profiling and go, excuse me, would you mind just playing along real quick? The 4 of us have been playing kind of a profiling game, and I don't need to know your name, but could you kind of give me a little background on like where you grew up, what kind of work you do, so that we can see if any of us were right? And thinking back, I don't think I had anybody that freaked out or was offended, because we were doing it as a game, and now they were curious as to, I said, and I'll tell you what we came up with after, especially if somebody was right. And so it piqued their curiosity of like, well, this is the kind of work that I do. This is how I grew up, da 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 da. What did you guys come up with? And it was fun watching their faces as they heard impressions from us back there playing a game. And I didn't have face reading and all of these tools that we have now. It was just simply judging on looks and hunches and stuff like that. So, like I say, squirrel. Oh, and to answer Mark's question, kind of like on the lines of what Lenora added was, John blew me away. I got to give a huge shout out to Steve Ream, who actually taught me the next level of conversational hypnosis and getting change work without the boredom induction. And I tell my clients, some of them have seen enough they've worked with enough other people that they want the boredom induction because they're used to it. But I let people know that I try not to do that out of conservation of time, because I can get just as much change work doing what I do. And it wasn't until I watched Steve Ream do it on stage and get massive change work that I went, what the, well, that was kind of cool. I want to learn how to do that. Yep. Lenora.
I recently had the pleasure of seeing Ken Guto for the first time, and his approach to eliminate smoking was completely next level. And he goes through this whole pre-process, and it was outstanding to watch him. And I was so excited that I had the opportunity to see him in Orlando, because it really was extraordinarily powerful, and I could see why he gets these massive changes that he does. It was really cool.
Yes, I learned his technique from him as well, and yeah, very effective. Fran.
I think Mark brought up about inspirational people, and it brought to mind one of the most unexpected for me inspirational people was actually the head of the Australian Army at one time. And I went to this keynote talk thinking, oh, this is going to be a bit of a pain. And I walked away realizing that I would have walked through the gates of hell for him, with him. And he had that much inspirational ability. He went on to become a governor of Australia, a governor general. But, you know, sometimes you meet the most inspirational people in places you don't expect. So, yeah, that was, I don't quite know what the lesson was, just don't prejudge.
And I totally agree. I was lucky enough to meet Jeremiah Donnell, JP, who served with Jocko Willink. And watching it made me very interested in the stuff that Jocko teaches, JP as well. Seeing those guys on stage and talking about the things they do is like, wow. Hearing JP's story of what he had to go through just to become a Navy SEAL. And then being a sniper in some of the most horrendous situations. Wow. Like, yeah, even on my worst day, I'm pretty sure he would have traded, for the situation I was suffering through a couple of times. It's all in perspective. Anything else for the last couple minis before we have to put this one to a close?
Fran's got a friend in the background.
Perfect timing. That was awesome.
That is my friend Nova.
Nova.
And we've just been down to the marina.
Super cool. Well, kids, we got 3 minis left. Anybody else got anything? Yes, Lenora.
I was curious who Mark thought was most influential for him, most impactful for him. Yeah, that's the question.
Well, various mentors along the way, but I think Dr. David opened my eyes to the world of hypnosis, and that there was an entire, not even a rabbit hole. It was just like, this yawning gulf of things I didn't know, and, all these, cool things. And, he was one of the most powerful. I've sat classes at Hypno Thoughts with others like Ken and Jason, and, that was my first, I went by myself, and, I got out of my comfort zone, and, it was just, again, it was, I like, but I think everybody's right. Everybody has something to teach you, and walking around Hypno Thoughts, and, and just, interacting with people, but just being in a place where, these folks are, again, it's like, your tribe is like 1,000 all of a sudden, or 15, however many people were there. And it's like, they, I can't remember the guy that does the instant inductions. He's from New York City, and he taught me, a lot of things about, like I said, like I said, everybody has something to teach you, and especially at Hypno Thoughts is, there's just not enough time to visit all the different salons and get all the nuggets and the knowledge that, and like I said, I just try to, when I go, I try to, visit as many different of those places. And, but it was David was the first, and he, like I said, and he opened my eyes to an entire realm that I was totally unaware of, and I'll always be grateful to him for that. But I don't know. Like I said, I've but I've had mentors and other people along the way that again, and I think everybody has something to teach you, and but as far as, like Fran said, inspirational people, I've always been inspired. I have had a great relationship with my mom. She passed away Sunday. I think it was 18 years ago, and she, she's always chirping in my ear now. But yeah, that one negative comment, you've got 10 positive ones to negate one negative comment. Well, I can't tell you how many millions of times she told me when I was growing up, "You're a great kid. or good kid worthy of great praise. And that always stuck, and that, so I guess she was my first inspiration, was to, and she, I had a great relationship. I still have a great relationship to her. Like I said, she's always chirping in my ear, and I've got a lot of momisms that I share with other people, and I trade them back and forth with my sister. So, but very wise woman. She was born at the end of World War One. She went through World War Two, the Depression, the whole thing with the the 60s and all that stuff. She saw the Berlin Wall go up. She saw it come down. She saw the Red Sox actually win the World Series, in her lifetime. So, yeah, she was always an inspiration. She continues to be an inspiration to me every day.
Awesome. And I got to throw something in here, even though we're over on time, about, especially about a total shout out to Dr. David Snyder. Obviously, I wouldn't be here with you guys if it weren't for that man. And it was so interesting when you brought up Hypno thoughts, because I had been working with him, and I couldn't make it. I think the year that I first met him, I couldn't make it to Hypno thoughts with him. I just knew that, I got to go do this Hypno thoughts thing in Vegas. You should come. And I'm like, yeah, a little busy, and I can't afford a vacation right now. Da 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 da. Well, he came back and said that the audio sucked, and I'm going with next year. I'm like, okay. Well, you got to understand, when I met Dr. David, had I known he was doing hypnosis, I would have bounced. I knew nothing. I knew very little of the industry other than what most people on the planet know about hypnosis. Yeah, I'd run sound for some stage hypnotists and stuff like that, and that was about all I knew. So Dr. David to me was this dude that taught really cool stuff at meetups that I would record for him. He did some really cool demonstrations, and he would have like 30 people come to the meetups, 30, 40 people. And so I'm thinking, not too bad for a white guy. And then the first year that I went with him to Hypno thoughts, having never experienced Hypno thoughts, then I found out there's a lot of people that know who Dr. David is. He wasn't even Dr. David at the time. He was just David Snyder. And would pack a room tight as sardines in a can. And then when he wasn't teaching and I didn't have to be running sound, I would go to the other presenters and feel sorry for them, because I'm like, there's like 5 of us in here, same room. And then they would teach and I'd be like, oh, that's why. But I learned from them. I just didn't understand. It gave me a whole new respect for who Dr. David was. And again, if it were not for him, I would not know you guys. Or at least I can say, no, I can say that because none of you lived in San Diego, so I know that chances are supremely slim I would not know Fran. Because that was a bit of a haul to meet you, my lady. So
Or was.
So that being said, I am so grateful for all the things the universe has tossed at me, and some people wonder how I can be so roll with the flow and all the above and be certain and optimistic. Because when I look at the thin silver strand that it took for me to get here, we're all one choice away from having an entirely different life. And that's why I feel so bad for all the people, the woe is me and my life sucks. And I'm like, you're one event away from an entirely different life. In fact, I was working with a client today, and I said, no offense, but your king probably doesn't have the address to your apartment. You're probably going to have to go out and meet him somewhere out in the world, in public, somehow. It's kind of like the people that want to win the lottery, but buying the lottery ticket is such a pain. Oh my gosh, the things I have to go through, but I deserve to win the lottery. When am I going to win the lottery? Have you bought a ticket yet? No, it's a pain in the butt. Do you know how far I have to go? 3 blocks to get that ticket, and I've got to stand in that deli that smells like meat, and then I got to deal with the dude that sits there and looks at me and is like, how many tickets you want? And then I tell him I only want one, and then he's like, only one? You're not going to win with just one. And I just don't want to buy a ticket anymore, but I got to win the lottery. Ta-da! Welcome to the planet of TJ and all that runs up in this little squirrel cage up here. That being said, now we're at 8:08. Everybody grab your phone and nope, it's only 8:08 here. Ha ha ha. But it means I have to say good night to you all, and as I will every time, I will thank you so much for giving a portion of your time, because it's the one thing that I cannot reproduce and give back to you, or else I would. So for you to offer up your magnificently precious commodity for this platform, I thank you so much. Love you all. Hope to see your beautiful faces in 7. Till then, go out, enjoy life, make the world a better place, live with the throttle to the floor, and see you soon.